Hi, welcome to the Stitch TV show. I'm Lynn.
And I'm Pam. We're happy you're joining us today. The Stitch is an online quilt talk show, the perfect soundtrack for your sewing room. You can join us for twice monthly talk shows, virtual stitch-ins, celebrity interviews, book clubs, podcasts, possibly even more. You can learn more about that at thestitchtvshow.com.
Our show today is brought to you by our friends QT Fabrics, EnMart, and Quilters Touch. You can learn more about each of them in our links in the episode show notes.
So, exciting times.
I know.
A plethora of new friends.
I'm excited too. And some old friends.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Not
So QT Fabrics.
Yes.
Who has been a supporter for us for a while, is back. And they have just wonderful fabrics that we've both enjoyed working with.
All new digital printed designs, too.
I know. Lots of new stuff they're doing. It's very exciting. Stuff. Very exciting. But Iris Thread from EnMart is one of our new sponsors, and they have these just luscious poly threads.
These were our fun neighbors at market. Well, we had fun neighbors on both sides when we were at market.
We did have fun neighbors. Yeah. But Iris Threads from EnMart, they shared some of the threads with us. We both tried them. We both really like them.
Yeah.
And that's before they said, hey, we want to be a sponsor.
Yes. So, and Iris is a commercial embroidery thread. But it works great for quilting.
Yes, it does.
Lovely.
And you know I love doing like coloring, book quilting and stuff. So it's perfect. It's totally perfect for that.
Yeah.
So
now EnMart is a distributor for Iris. They are a distributor for a couple other thread brands, so you'll see those pop up.
Right. These are the polys.
Yes.
So we have the most of those.
And then Quilters Touch is the company that makes machingers. And this was another friend of ours that stopped by the booth. So we'll talk more about the gloves and uses in actually our second segment. So speaking of, Lynn, what are we talking about in this episode?
We are talking about time management because it's the beginning of the year. You know, I think we should manage our time. We always have plans at the beginning of the year.
We do.
To manage our time. I'm not sure that it happens, but I think we should throw out some tips, things that we know. And then we're also going to talk about tools for quilting that you may need around your machine.
Yes.
So
we're joined by my quilt, The Thief of Joy, which, if you can read, you'll see it's marked for 2016.
Well, you did this in 2016.
So I made this quilt for the year that I led the evening meeting for the East Cobb Quilters Guild, which is what ECQG stands for on here. And I used it as a way to kind of kick off the year because I had seen and overheard, when you're sitting in guild meeting and someone shows something and you get a lot of appreciative comments, but then sometimes there's a comment of like, well, she just gets so much done, or I could never do that, or people maybe unintentionally bringing themselves down by comparing their work to someone else's, when in fact people make very different kinds of quilts.
Exactly.
So I kind of made this to set the tone for my, what turned out to be 2 years of leadership of like, let's all embrace what we're good at.
Yes, I agree.
And not disparage our own work.
Well, what I found out and what I liked that you did that was, you are a quilter who enjoys getting things done. I'm a quilter who would feel guilty about that because I don't get as much done. But I do very different types of quilts than you do. So it was giving me grace to go, you know what? That's okay. I don't have to get as many done as Pam does. But what I do get done, I get done well.
Yes.
So I think it's good. So totally works.
So
me.
It was a whole cloth quilt that when we were talking about what to hang behind us for this episode, I'm like, I'm sure I got a quilt somewhere in my house. And I have kind of two different rolls of quilts where I store things that I will hang in various places in my house. I have 70 inches and above is like one big long roll.
I love it.
And then I have like wall hanging. And I had to move the wall hanging to get to the bigger one because I was thinking I was going to bring a bigger quilt. And I saw this one. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Yeah. We're starting off the year.
We're starting off the year. So we think everybody should get the types of quilts done that they enjoy doing.
Yep.
Yeah. So
speaking of the types of quilts that you enjoy doing, how do you make time for those kinds of quilts, Lynn?
Well, that's a tough question for me to answer because this is what I do. Mm-hmm. So But at the same time, we have the stitch quilts, and there's a lot of behind the scenes with writing patterns and editing. I'm doing more of the editing now for all of our videos and stuff. So there's a lot of that takes away from my, fun,
Yeah.
selfish
You
for
don't-
Lynn.
You don't start a craft business or a quilt business to make things.
Right.
You're in fact running a business, and so there's paperwork and documentation.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Like yesterday, I was like, I'm going to have time to sew. And, I got caught up in emails and stuff like that. So I really didn't have time to sew like I wanted to. And I've been doing that all week. But I've been trying to get this project done and editing and stuff. So making time is definitely something that, and I don't have as many things pulling from me as you do because I'm married, yes, but I don't have children going, Mom, I need food.
human children.
Yes.
You have
I
four-legged.
have four-legged children, but they are different. Totally different. So I think everybody has different things pulling at their time, whether it's you volunteer for stuff or you have a full-time job or you have children and family members that you're either taking care of or, and that could be older or younger because I took care of my mom for a while. So understand that takes time away. So here's what I know. For me and the way my brain thinks, I need deadlines. And whether I have to make up those deadlines or somebody gives me those deadlines, like Pam gives me deadlines. Somebody gives me those deadlines. I need a deadline, and I need to put it on the calendar that, this has to be submitted by this date or this has to be whatever. So, do you use deadlines?
I don't have to be as overt about them because I think deadlines to me are more a part of my natural makeup. They don't have to be imposed on me.
I have to have them.
And I think that's just part of
the way we think.
The way that my brain is structured and why I, have formal education in engineering and process optimization and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so for me, in having that kind of formal education, now we did not talk at all about sewing at Georgia Tech or as part of my MBA program, like none of that. But some of those same principles apply. And the first thing, just kind of the natural thing is like, well, the notes on our teleprompter are like making time for crafting. You literally have to make time. You have to carve out time, even if it's 15 minutes a day. And whether that makes more sense for you to do it in the morning or the evening when you have more of your creative energy, that's a personal thing for me. I would prefer to do it in the morning. I got a lot of other stuff to get done in the morning. So I end up doing mine usually after dinner because I no longer have to put my kids to bed because they're teenagers. So
if I had to go in first thing in the morning and sew, I will sit in my sewing room and just stare.
Yeah.
Because I'm so not functional creatively in the morning. So I never get as much stuff done. Now, after 3 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night, I'm like, ooh. For some reason, that's when my creative brain kicks in. But Pam knows me. I am seriously a night owl. 2 o'clock in the morning is bedtime. I may go to the bedroom at 12, but I don't fall asleep till 2 on a regular basis. So I'm definitely a night owl. And my brain doesn't kick in creatively until then. So I would rather sew in the evening.
Yeah.
And I know that about myself. So if you're a morning person, get up early and sew in the morning. But if you can, yeah.
I either have to commute or that's when I exercise because I know if I don't do it at the beginning of the day, it's just not going to happen.
See, that's what I should probably do is exercise, like at all.
So one of the other things that we talk about in process optimization and the function of how things progress is knowing what your next step is. And so for me, I always like to leave my sewing room knowing that there's an obvious thing for me to do when I walk in it next time. So there
That's
are
helped me.
pieces next to the sewing machine that I know, like, oh, I need to stitch these into a block. Or there is fabric sitting there waiting to be cut. Or, there's the pile of blocks that needs to be pressed. So there's a very obvious, like, if I go in there and I'm just kind of like, I have 15 minutes. What can I do?
That's
It'll
what
be
I do.
very obvious to me. Now, I have the luxury of being able to leave stuff out. Yes, I have cats. They will sit on that. That's fine. I have lint rollers. And a
lot of
washing
lint.
machine.
You have a lot of lint rollers
I
too.
do.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
we have lint rollers.
So it's helpful then to have projects in multiple stages because maybe all of the things you need to get done are quilting, but you don't feel like quilting. You feel like piecing. You just have to have a little forethought in terms of how you're staging your projects. And if you know, oh, I've got to make 3 baby quilts because there's triplets coming, maybe you don't want to do all the piecing at one time or all the quilting at one time. And you want to do get one in the cutting stage, one in the piecing stage, one in the quilting stage. So you're not sick of quilting or sick of binding.
I started to say,
Our production
that's
staff
fine.
is facing that right now. That's why I use that example.
I'm fine with that until it comes to binding, and then I'm like, ugh. So binding, I procrastinate on the binding thing.
Yeah. Now, you don't necessarily have to put everything in a list or a spreadsheet and schedule it and I'll start this one then and this one then. Unless you're working on 20 things at the same time, in which case I would argue you are not in fact working on 20 things at the same time. You can really physically only work on one thing at a time. You may be thinking of something else while you're working on that one thing.
That's true. Now, because I work to deadlines, though, and because of the way my mind thinks, there are a couple of things that I think if you work to that, you need to take into account just for success. And both of those things are, well, first thing is really estimate the time it takes to do X, right? So, if this is piecing a pineapple quilt, which has, 40 pieces in one block,
Ooh, girl.
Right, that's different than piecing a 9-patch quilt.
Mm-hmm.
So really, so if you're judging how much time it's going to take you to piece something and you're judging it off a 9-patch, but you're doing a pineapple, then it's like, oh, wait, that time got increased exponentially. And so if you can't estimate how long it takes you to do that, that's going to unfortunately push you up against a deadline. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this has to be given away tomorrow. And I'm still piecing and have to quilt and bind yet. You don't want to be in that situation. So really give a good estimate. And the other thing I would say that's important when you're doing time management my way is understand that there will be a hiccup somewhere. I don't care if it's you run out of thread or if you run out of XYZ. It doesn't matter. Something goes wrong with your machine. There's all these reasons that you may need extra time, so you've got to figure that into the process.
And that's true of any kind of good project management, like home
Right.
improvement, notorious for taking longer than you
Yes,
think.
there's always a hiccup someplace
Yeah.
in the process, and that you're not expecting. And and the other thing's being flexible. Like I've run out of thread that I was using for something. Well, guess what? It wasn't hot pink anymore. It was fuchsia pink, and nobody knew, So it's kind of one of those, you just kind of go with the flow and figure out what it is. And if you run out of fabric, find similar close and make do. Or
You could try crying in
Cry.
the bathroom. Not terribly productive, but you might feel better.
call me and see if I have that in my stash. No,
We've done that to each
we've
other.
done that. I need more. Please, I cut this wrong. And we all do it. Like we all totally cut something wrong, run out of thread.
Oh my goodness. I went to cut binding for something. I have made a lot of quilts. And I have had the same size binding width for
Years.
nigh on 8 to 10 years.
Oh, as long as I've known you.
Borked it right up.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I'm a professional. It happens. It totally happens. So, those are the things that I'm like, be able to go with the flow, understand there's going to be hiccups. It's okay. And, and I've been there, believe me. I was in charge of the quilt show, the last quilt show. I had said that I had sent in a quilt with just a top, which our quilt show allows you to do, that wasn't quilted yet. It had to be at the show. I finished it 6 hours before it had to be turned in. And I was in charge of the thing. I'm like, I can't not have this done and be the show chair and not have a quilt. It was bad. So I've been there. I've totally been that pushing the deadline. Like, oh my gosh. I'm so glad that quilt's done. Totally glad that quilt's done. So yeah, those are my that's my brain. And you're like process. So you don't write, you don't like do a things to do list?
I tend, so most of my large blocks of time for quilting are on the weekends because I have a full-time job and, my kids are lower maintenance in terms of like everyday needs. They can feed themselves, do their own laundry. They're teenagers. So
they're learning to
little
be
kids, little
responsible.
problems, big kids, big problems.
Yeah.
So I don't have that active mothering that you have with young kids where you're like physically trying to keep them alive. And like they're both taller than me now, so they can even reach the high stuff in the shelves.
They are.
So I need a new place to hide the candy, first of all.
Yeah. I heard that. You were like, I have all these Reese's, and they were gone. Because Zach figured out where I was putting them.
Not him.
No kidding.
Yeah. Anyway, so, my big blocks of time are on the weekend. So at the start of the weekend, I will write a list of like, here's the stuff I want to get done. And so even over Christmas break, which, feels like a distant memory, was not that long ago. I had like two weeks off. And so I had a list of like 13 things to get done over 2 weeks. And normally in any one block of time, I will start with 3 things because 3 things feels manageable.
See, I'll write these to-do lists.
And
they're like,
too much.
30 things on them. I'm like, I'm never going to get.
No.
Now, I
3.
feel good. I have to admit, I do feel good about crossing stuff out. And if I get something done that's not on the list, I will totally write it on the list.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And cross it off. Because I'm like, but I did this and I should get credit.
And now, there are things that, hey, if the inspiration struck, I would work on this thing, but I'm not going to put it on that short list, the reasonable list of things I want to get done. And so, if I'm sewing in the evening or even on the weekends, and I'm like, there's 3 things I want to get done.
Yeah.
3 things, you can count it on one hand.
See,
you can easily remember 3 things typically. Even in our great advanced age, I can remember 3 things. I could used to remember 7 things.
She looked at me like a little too long on that one,
like
don't
both
you
of
think?
us. I was looking at your husband.
Oh, okay. He's older. By 2 months, seriously.
See?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm a trophy wife. Go ahead.
If you want to start a list, it's like 3 things. And maybe they're
That's
dumb things
good
like
idea.
Piece the blocks, make the quilt top, cut the binding. Don't even have to commit to making the binding. Like 3 manageable things. And then you get that like, ooh, I finished my list.
I agree. But then I have to have the secret list. That's the real list of all the things that I need to remember so that I don't forget them when to put on the next 3 things list. You know what I'm saying? Because I would forget like all the stuff I need to write down. I do use a to-do list. And I try to start it one every day.
But just know.
Like I do a daily one.
If you do more than 5, you're going to feel bad about yourself.
Oh, well, that's my problem. That would be the issue. Because I never get everything done.
Yeah, and mine is not usually like 3 sewing or quilting things. It's like,
oh no,
edit this pattern,
yes,
or make the graphics for this,
yes,
and then maybe get to sewing. And that's the hazard of having a quilting or sewing business. Is you've got to mingle in kind of that computer work and business stuff in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find the manageable list.
Now, do you give yourself rewards?
No,
I totally give myself.
No,
rewards.
I feel good enough for getting it done. And I can very easily fall in a trap of food rewards, which is not leading down a good path.
No. I mean sewing rewards. So like, I edit a lot of the videos that we put out. So if I edit one block or one section, I'm like, I can go sew. And I let myself go sew before I make myself go back and edit again. So it's not a food reward as much as it is a that's one way for me to carve out time. Is sewing's my reward of getting other stuff done I'm supposed to be doing. Now, that being said, I have a very flexible schedule because of this. So, I'm not working a 9-to-5 job. Although I do try to be in the office and answer emails and stuff during a business work day or whatever.
Okay.
So, yeah. But that's my kind of reward of, I got this piece done. Now I can go sew and go play in my sewing room. That's not necessarily stitch stuff. That's me stuff.
And I think the reward is the thing that you want to work on. Now, maybe you just want to pull fabrics and see what looks good together.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't actually have to make anything from it.
True.
Like, that's a reward right there. The
It
freedom
totally
to
is.
just make stuff for yourself.
Well, we were talking last night. We interviewed Dale, the quilting cowboy, and he was talking about how his inspiration is just pulling stash and rearranging stash, and that's a creative thing. And I totally agree with that. Like, there are blocks that get put together on my sewing table that are never sewn, but the stash is pulled that goes, oh, that would look good.
Mm-hmm.
And because you can come in my sewing room right now. There's some stacks that I want that to go together kind of thing. So I was playing the other night. So, yeah, definitely.
All right.
Anything else we can tell them?
No, I think we've
Get
effectively
stuff done.
We've
There you
effectively
go.
managed this time. So
Yes, we've managed this time. Now we're going to take a closer look at The Thief of Joy, and we will be right back. Now, we are going to talk about tools and some of our favorite tools that we use for quilting. Now, because I quilt on a long arm, some of mine may be a little different, but I think some of them are going to be the same.
I think they are.
So,
I'm going to start off with a 1-2 punch.
okay, go for it.
Number 1, a very tiny hook, which we will put under the camera. And then number 2, related, a pair of snips. Now, these are from our friends at Fomore. And what I love about these snips is there is a little tiny cutout that you can use to grab thread on the unfortunate chance that you have to
Okay, I have the same snips.
put them under the camera so
And-
people can see them.
And I can't find it, but I did have a hook also. So I agree. These are two of my favorite things too. So a hook next to your sewing machine and then those snips with the cutout. But I'm going to give you another pair of snips that are important. These are also from our friends from Moray, but these have a little curve to them, which help get really close to the top of your, to the top of the thread when you're pulling a thread up and clipping it
Oh, okay.
right next to the fabric. So these are also very good too. So these are my two favorite snips, which I have, and several different pair of those that do that. There's another kind too that have more of a graduation to them, which you can see there. See, they're more graduated.
Yes.
So those are, and I have this hook too, but I just don't know where it went.
Well, you know the other thing I put on that hook, Lynn, take a guess.
I don't know.
My wedding ring.
Really?
Why do I put my wedding ring on there, you may ask?
Because, well, here's the thing. Both of us have marquee
Yes.
diamonds.
There's some height to
And
it.
okay, this is kind of weird. Like we didn't know each other before we got married at all.
We are not married. We are married
And we
to
are
our
not.
husbands.
We're married to husbands, but we didn't know each other. And she got. I've been married longer,
I was
but
married
we
2000.
both have marquee diamonds
Like the little
for our
football shape.
for our engagement rings, and we both have surrounds of little smaller ones, the exact same kind. Just hers are ruby and mine are sapphire.
And we'll try to take a picture of our hands together with
Because
them.
it's like-
just for the what?
Because we looked at each other, I'm like, you have my ring. And she's like, you have my ring. And I'm like, that's just weird. So it is kind of funny that
That I got the warm color and you got the cool color.
I know, because I would have, I think that is funny too because I don't have the ruby. I love rubies and
Mine's my birthstone. But the reason I take my ring off when I'm quilting is because when I use my machiners, I unfortunately did not used to do that, and my ring would poke a hole in it.
Yeah, the marquees
it was
are sharp.
Functionally the same, but I find it. I like to not have a hole in my machiners now.
I would agree with you. That makes sense.
And I do love these gloves. So what I like about them is that they're lighter weight. So this is obviously next to my sewing machine in multiples. But just the fingertips have the grip to them. And it's a lighter
cotton.
It's a lighter cotton on the rest of your hand. And I don't normally get sweaty hands, but in like all of the tugging that you do for quilting, you can get a little sweaty. Particularly ladies of a certain age. And so I like that they're lighter and it doesn't feel like, oh gosh, there's something on my hand and I can't do anything because something's wrong with my hand. Well, like when I wear a thimble and I'm like, I can't use this finger, there's something on it. And so then I use the finger without the thimble and thus defeats the purpose of the thimble.
Yeah. I do take off my rings when I quilt or when I sew a lot. But I just have a little bowl that I put them in.
I put mine on the hook.
But I could see that.
Now, worth noting for machiners.
Yes. Let me put the machiners up here.
Yeah. Oh, put that package up there on the back with the size guide. It's important to get your right size because if you get a size too small, you're going to blow out your fingertips. Like you will just develop holes where the nails go because I've had that happen with a different brand of glove where I just like grabbed a pair and didn't check the size. So definitely, and the great thing on the back of the package, they've got it there. So we were talking to Suzanne, the owner of the company at Market, and she's like, do you know how to clean yours? And I'm just like,
what?
She's like, well, it's on the back of the package. I'm like, well, who reads instructions? So we did want to let everyone know, especially if you're working with fabrics, that the dye will come off because your gloves will get, a little bit of, not grime, but like you'll just see, they'll discolor slightly. And if you're using fabrics and I feel like I should just be doing jazz hands with these, by the way.
You should, definitely.
But like batiks or just fabrics with dyes, like a hand dyed sometimes. So if your gloves get discolored, you can use an oil-based soap. So like we have Murphy's soap, which is oil-based soap that they have the ladies in the church cleaning the pews with it.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
That's
what I was taught to clean my, antique wooden furniture with.
Or saddle soap. So anything oil-based will work for the fingertips. And then honestly, you could just put your gloves on and use like just standard dish soap and just pretend like you're washing your hands and then let them air dry. So that's how you clean them. If you've got some discoloration and you're afraid to like, oh no, I can't go work on a light colored top now because they're red or whatever color, has transferred to them. So love these. Cannot recommend them enough. So thank you, Suzanne. And yes, please do check your size.
Yes.
That's going to be important.
And you put your palm down at the bottom.
Yeah.
So you can see, like, I am a small medium.
Yeah. And you'll know if you ever look inside the packages, like each of the different sizes have a different cuff color. So I have standard gray. I think you have like a lighter teal color.
Oh, I got the teal ones.
Good times.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, what else?
So gloves, definitely. Now, I can't say I've used gloves as much on a long arm, but the suggestion has been made that you can use gloves when you're doing the long arm with rulers. And so I can't wait to try this.
Oh, yeah.
Because I do use rulers and, they can move around or whatever. And so this is one of our rulers that we are producing for long arms. So it's
or domestics.
So it's thicker it's very important that the long arms that it be thicker. So it's thicker for a standard long arm ruler so that the hopping foot won't go over it and you won't, try to sew a template. So this is, but this machiners will allow you to grip this a little bit better.
I have used.
Yeah. So, and when she said that to me, I was like, I bet I could use that on the long arm. So I'm going to be playing with them, and I'm really excited. Thank you, Suzanne, to try that out. But one of the tools that I use at the sewing machine are rulers and templates that just help with the long arm kind of thing. So rulers will stay at my long arm on a regular basis. So those are some rulers that I would use.
Cool.
All right, now what's your next one?
I'm going to look inside.
Look inside.
Look inside the little basket of tricks I put together. Okay, so a water-soluble marking pen. And I don't do a ton of marking. I hate marking. So when I'm planning quilt designs, I tend to choose some that I can do without marking. So I'm quilting to various designated points on the piecing. Like I will quilt from intersection to intersection of the piecing, then I know then I don't have to mark. When I do need to mark, it's because it's more of like an open expanse, or I need just a couple guidelines to get me started. And then from there, I can use a ruler to help me, like if I'm trying to do cross hatching. And I can get to the next thing. Now, I did have to mark this one. So I marked the circle, and obviously I marked all the lettering because this is whole cloth. And then the color is from Inktense pencils. So they're like watercolor pencils. So yeah, I had to do marking on that one. But
I also have pens next to mine.
let's put these under the camera.
Okay. And I use water soluble. I also use the purple disappearing. Here's the purple disappearing. These are the water soluble. And then I'm going to be controversial, but I use a friction. There are just some things I need to see, and the friction lets me see them. But here's the thing with the friction. I understand the risk. So, and I'm okay with that risk. And I live in Atlanta, and it's not really cold here as much. So, and I've not put any of my quilts in the freezer. But it will come back
if they get cold.
If they get cold,
Yeah.
and that's the, if you don't know, that's the controversy about the friction pen. The friction pen has a gel that gets in your quilt, and that gel is temperature sensitive. And so, even though you have taken heat to erase the gel, erase the marking that the gel will have, heat makes it go away, but cold makes it come back. So unless you get that gel out of the quilt, which means washing it, flooding it with water to get the gel out, you have the risk of seeing those lines come back. With as much quilting I do on top of those lines, and 90% of the time when I'm using a friction pen, it is to give me an outline that I'm then going to do almost thread painted on top of. If it comes back, you're not going to see it because there's so much thread laying on top of it.
Yeah.
It's not there. But I understand the risk, and I'm willing to take that. So if you don't like that risk, don't use the friction. There you go.
True.
And the purple goes away. So I love and hate this one. If I know I'm standing there and I need to do it right then, I'll use the purple. But if I'm going to walk away and I expect to see this later, don't.
No, use the water soluble.
It goes away. So that's the risk with that. I think that one's just as controversial.
Yeah.
It leaves me. I don't like that. So
right, one of
pens.
the things that I have to hold my pens.
Oh, this is good.
So I got one of these, a year ago, and then I was gifted another one. So Lynn gets to be the lucky duck that keeps this one. So this is from It's So Emma, which is, I think related somewhat to Lori Holt.
I don't know.
No, I think her look is very similar, but it's got like this orange peel looking shape, but you can stick marking pens or scissors or like small tools in here. Now you don't have to have this, but I think something to hold your tools in, and this is your opportunity to just have fun with like a fun pencil cup, or like maybe it's that weird thing that your kid made that you're like, thanks, honey, I love it. And you can use it to put your quilty marking pens in. But this is, if you are looking for something to keep them more separated, this keeps everything very upright.
Right.
So I had just put a video out on the channel about kind of covering up quilting whoopsies. And we've talked about it before, where you can use a fabric gel roller pen, or I've used Pigma pens to, if I'm quilting with white thread and I accidentally stray into an area of dark fabric, and it's like, oh gosh, that's very obvious. And you can just color the thread.
It's better if it's lighter thread and darker fabric.
You can't color
than the
darker
way.
thread lighter.
Not well.
That's not how
not
pigments
well.
work.
That's not how it works.
Yeah. But I keep my assortment of whoopsie covers in my
Right.
organizer too.
Right. Right. Okay, so these are two things that I think are very important by your
Lipstick. What is this?
by your sewing machine, whether it's domestic or it's a long arm. And one is the oil to oil your machine.
Oh,
So this is my oil.
mine doesn't look like that.
Yeah, mine's fancy. So this is my oil for one of my machines. My long arm oil is really tall, but this is oil. And then this is a brush to brush out the lint for your machine. Those are two things that every time, well, I should probably leave the brush out. So every time you change a bobbin, you want to put some oil in. At least my machines, I want to drop some oil in, and I want to clean out the lint. So it's very important to keep, especially in a long arm, to just keep that lint free as possible. So, and Iris poly thread will help in that, honestly, because it doesn't have the lint that you're seeing with cotton threads.
Some cotton threads. Some cotton threads are better than others.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
But Iris poly thread is great.
Yeah.
So you want to be sure, and it's important tools to have. I mean, it's not helping you in the quilting process, but it's helping the quilting process.
Now, related. Here's a fun one that I'm not going to demonstrate. This is a headlamp.
Seriously?
That I'm not going to turn on because it's, yes. Well, so here's why I have a headlamp. I would not have thought to buy this myself. My husband is a mechanic by trade.
Right.
And so he's also not a fan of Christmas. So he will never willingly give you a list of Christmas gift ideas. And so he, through the years, has gotten pretty much every year some kind of flashlight. Because they tend to think like, he's working on stuff. He could use a flashlight. So literally, I think he's been given like 4 or 5 headlamps, and I just started taking them because why not? But because I have a sit down mid arm, I have a Sweet 16, and I find like I'm trying to get underneath it to clean out the lint or to oil. I can't see, so I can strap this little baby on.
Yes, that's a good idea.
And then this comes in. I think it'll like have a red light. Don't recommend that. It's got like a flashy one. Don't recommend that. But then there is a solid state, like, and you can put that under there. But it's like a random, you get it at your big box store.
Yes. Sometimes those big box stores are friends. Definitely. Okay, this one's going to go along with cleaning too. And this is one of those
microfiber
fiber cleaning cloths. And you can tell it's got like schmutz on it. And the reason that it's got schmutz on it is because with a long arm, you need to clean the rails. And so I try to clean the rails. Maybe right before I start quilting, I'll just clean the rails really quick. And the wheels on your machine, depending on what machine you have, some of them are different types of wheels. But just make sure the rails are clean, there's not stray threads on them, not dust build up. And that just allows it to run smoother on those rails. And so that's the cloth that I use so that there's no speed bumps, on the rails. So definitely clean the rails on your long arm, and that will help your quilting. And it's a tool that you'll be glad you have. So
unrelated to that.
Unrelated.
But fun nonetheless are a pin cushion. And yes, all of my pens are organized by color. That's how I roll. But then there's like one needle with a very large eye because I find as I'm quilting, it works better for me to bury my threads as I go instead of going on a scavenger hunt to try to find them later. Because I have quilts on my bed that still have like 4 threads just springing off at one point because I missed burying them.
Day on the Christmas quilt that was on our bed. I was like, it was this long.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe I missed that one.
Yeah, so I find keeping the needle nearby. And so this is your opportunity just to have a fun pin cushion.
That's a cute
This one looks like a tiny tuffet.
It does.
On the bottom there, doorknobs, like from cabinets that were extra because we remodeled a bathroom. And they're super heavy, so I know the cat's not going to make off with that pin cushion.
Okay. I use this with my long arm. I swear by these.
I also use them on mine.
And I think they're one of the best things invented. But they're these magic bobbin washers. And they're these little, are they Teflon?
They're Teflon.
They're these little Teflon discs that you put underneath your bobbin. And it makes your bobbin run smoother.
It helps prevent overspin. Like if you're changing the speed at which you're quilting, so either with your foot pedal or with the speed of the machine on a long arm,
Right.
it will keep the bobbin from like overspinning when it accelerates too much, which is nice.
I'm just telling you, if you're having tension problems or whatever, with a long arm, it's kind of frustrating because you're like, looks good up here, looks good down. You're doing the whole up and under
That's why you
thing.
need that headlamp.
And yeah, I'm gonna go get a headlamp. So, but
I may have.
you may have a spare one.
Oh, yeah. Volunteer from the audience has one.
So
Or no, he needs one. Or yeah, okay, well.
So, but these
thing you got a
bobbin
birthday coming
washer,
up.
I know. So now I'm getting a headlamp for my birthday. Girl. So, but these washers, I think, just always seem to make it run better. So I use them with every bobbin. And they last a long time, too. So
I got one thing left in my little bag of tricks.
a
A lint roller.
can't imagine.
Yeah. So I also find it's easier for me to lint roll my quilts as I go along. So if there's stray threads from piecing, or in my case, cat hair, because I can't leave something sitting under the needle on my mid-arm, because the cats will think it's their own little personal fort.
And who gave us this lint roller?
These are our other fun neighbors from Market, Delaware
Yes.
Dry Goods.
They just stuffed them in our bags. It was great fun.
I need that one back.
Okay, there you go. She doesn't want to lose her lint roller. Okay, the very last thing that I have is one of these clips that you clip on yourself with the retractable scissors. When I was out at Handy Quilter, they gave me this, and wow, do I like using it. So I always know where my scissors are. I mean, I have other scissors around me, but it's just nice that they're right there. Clip a thread back. It's awesome. So one of these little retractable.
Yeah. Now you don't, so anything branded specifically for quilting, a little gadget like that, probably going to have a markup, but you can go to an office supply store.
Yeah, exactly.
I literally have some of those branded with my day job company.
Yeah. Well, the reason, and I guess I didn't think of it when I had a day job, we used to put our tags,
Yeah, our company badges.
company badges on those to hit the door so that it opens up the
Security
office
first.
security. Yeah. So I just hadn't thought of to put my scissors on them, and it's a great idea. But Handy Quilter just did give me that
Yes.
one. And so thank you very much, Handy Quilter. And we had a great time out there. So that's my last one, too. Do you have anything else? I have a pencil over here.
Cast about.
But I just forgot to say I use a pencil sometimes.
For marking?
Marking, yeah.
No, but that doesn't come out.
Yeah, well, they've been using pencils since the 1800s, 1700s, so.
They
It's
also
still
had
pretty
outdoor
standard.
toilets back then, Lynn. Some things are better.
Every once in a while I use a pencil. All right, so moving on. She's so funny.
Some things are better.
Some things are. Anyway, that's the last thing I had over here. And a
There you
brush,
go.
another brush.
Another
but
brush.
Same thing as the first brush. So,
Cool.
all right. Well, those are our tools, top tools that we actually, and all of those I actually use. Like, I just went next to my sewing machine and grabbed stuff.
Oh yeah, that's what I did too. Now,
Exactly what I
the hook
did.
was the one thing that I didn't take the one off.
And
my
I
machine.
lost that hook, so I got to find it. It's probably over in the next.
Well, if you need that one, that was one of my spares.
Oh, okay. We got spares. All right.
So, we would love to hear tips, tools, tricks, any other things that start with T. Do your tools fit you to a T? Why don't you let us know in the comments? on the blog or the YouTube episode or in our Facebook group, What's Up Stitches. And that's all we have for this episode. Today's show has been made possible by EnMart, QT Fabrics, and Quilters Touch. You can find links to all these wonderful companies in the show notes for today's episode.
We'd like to thank 77 Peaches and Big Think Productions for helping produce The Stitch. And if you've enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on the notifications on YouTube. There's like buttons that pop up.
She's just doing a disco dance over here.
Oh, they're down here. To know immediately when a new episode drops.
So our next virtual stitch-in is Friday, February 8th at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern. It'll be broadcast live on our YouTube channel. Our next book club episode is January 25th. So we're talking about two-color quilts on that one.
Yay! It's 2 days before my birthday.
It's actually my mom's birthday.
Oh, she's got a great month to have a birthday in.
So my podcast, Hip to Be a Square, is out Fridays or sometimes Saturdays on iTunes or Google Play.
And all those details and more can be found on our website, thestitchtvshow.com, along with links to purchase Stitch TV Show merchandise, video classes. So tune in next time for more Quilting Chat with Friends.